Okie dokie. So let's get into these questions.
Yeah.
And I'm looking down and not ignoring you. It's just that
That's
I'm
okay. That's fine.
So, what are you working on at present?
Well, at present, of course, we're moving house, so my workshop is all packed away, but that doesn't mean that I'm not creating. In fact, what I'm working on is a commission piece that I received at the last show that I did, which was the Contemporary Arts Fair. Because I do a lot of commission work for people. People often want a lamp made that's special to them. Maybe it's a favourite hobby they've got, or maybe it's a sport that their father played. But this is a chap came to see me who's really into the Beatles. He loves the Beatles. He saw the other lamps that I made in a similar vein, like you can see Jimi Hendrix over my shoulder there on the backdrop here. And he said, would I consider doing one of the most iconic album covers ever?
Oh, wow. Yes.
Is the Abbey Road Beatles, the Fab Four. So that is what I'm working on at the moment in its early design stage. So that's good. I mean, it's not too difficult, but it's the size of it, because all my lamps are about 30 centimeters tall. And I said to him, would you like me to scale this down a bit? It's because I use 1/2-inch pipe fittings. And I said I could scale. No, he said, I want it full round. So it's going to be over a meter long, this piece.
Oh, how exciting. What a lovely commission.
That's what I'm working on at the moment. That's what I'm working on.
Okay, apart from commissions, I mean, you've said where this particular idea sparked from was this commission. Is there anything else that has helped you to create the piece that you're going to make for this particular?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with all my pieces, I do an element of research because, as you said in the introduction there, Mac, I'm dealing with very inanimate objects, really, pipe fittings. They're sort of static objects. They've got no inherent movement in them, but it's the way that I put them together and just a slight variation in the degrees of the fittings when they're together hopefully conveys some sort of movement. So I've obviously, with this piece I'm doing here, I've got to convey the movement of them walking across. So it's not going to be that I do try when I've got a piece to work towards that's a photograph like this is, I do try to match exactly the sort of angles of the legs. So they're not all going to be just V-shaped legs like that. There'll be proper knees, because I've got special fittings that I use for knees. So they'll be a slight different angle. So I'll go so far as to almost measure the angle between like Paul McCartney's legs there to make sure I've got it right. That is what I love doing, because if you're trying to reproduce something and you've only got pipe fittings, it's a bit of a job. But by sort of trying to get that extra little bit of difference in, so that's what I'm going for, first of all. And of course, different coloured outfits they have on. John Lennon in white, Ringo Starr in black, Paul in a dark blue suit, and George in denim. Each lamp will be painted to match that. And Paul, of course, has no shoes on. So he'll have sort of pinky coloured fittings for the feet. And if you notice, he's the only one that's got a cigarette in his mouth, in his hand.
Ah.
So I will craft out of wood a little cigarette that I will put in his hand there. So it's just little things like that. So for all my lamps, there's lots of research that goes in. It may be just the golfing lamp that I did, getting the angle right of the swing, things like that.
Right. You've mentioned, do you always do research before you make a piece?
To some degree, yes. I mean, some of my pieces, most of the pieces that I do now are based on characters that I can research. But if I'm doing a sort of, there's a piece that I've done, it's not behind me, called Together Forever, which is two interlinked pipe people with a big heart bulb between them. There's no research I could do for that. So that was sort of from my own mind, really, how to make this lamp look like two people, two separate entities, but with one heart combined. So if I'm doing more of an abstract lamp like that, I will do some notes and do some drawings. But if it's a sporting lamp or a musical lamp, it's very important to do the research to get the exact the positions, the stance, whatever. But on the whole, I like to do as much research as I can. Sometimes it's just not possible. But yeah, that's part of the enjoyment of the whole process.
Absolutely. And I like that you've got that flexibility and how you create. So you've described some of your decision-making process so far. Can you highlight any other decision-making?
Yeah, there's lots of decisions. Yeah, there are lots of decisions I have to make when I'm doing a lamp. The first one is, of course, size. Is it going to be feasible to do it the size that I want, which is nearly always using 1/2-inch fittings as my base, which gives you a lamp, if you're doing a person, gives you a lamp about 30 centimeters tall. And it's also the choice of switch. Now, when I started in the early days, I used physical switches, as in the rotary switch or the torpedo switch, maybe in the cord, or a push button switch.
So you need to explain these switches to me.
Okay, well, obviously every lamp needs a switch to turn it on and off. The physical switches are the ones that you have to actually either turn, if it's a rotary click switch, or a push button on-off switch, which is a locking on-off switch, or it could be the torpedo switch, the one you find on a table lamp on the cord, the little back. So that's what I used to use at the start. That was my switching options. But then I got into making my lamps touch sensor. So you can touch anywhere on the lamp to turn it on. And that gives me a whole new way of thinking, because if you're trying to include a switch somewhere in the lamp, it has to be discreet. So the switches were on the end of someone's hand, maybe, or on the wooden base. With the touch sensor lamps, you don't have to see a switch. The switch is the whole lamp, and you are in fact part of the switch, because you touching the lamp creates the completed circuit and turns the lamp on and off. So it's sort of sorting out the switching. Now, with this lamp that I'm doing for the Fab 4, the gentleman who's commissioned it wants each of these lamps independently touch sensor switched.
Oh, that's a challenge in itself.
White. So he may one day just want George on and Ringo, or he might want Paul and John on one day, depending how he's feeling. So there's a whole new thought process got to go into there, because I can only do that when the lamp is on a wooden base.
Of course.
Because you have to route out underneath the wooden base a space about 1/2 inch deep in which to put the touch sensor module, which is only a little plastic piece like that with the wires. But I've got to find space for 4 of those. And then I've got to wire them all up so that they all work off the same electrical input, the same 230-volt input, but then they've each got to be wired separately. So it's going to be a little bit like spaghetti junction, the wiring underneath. But it's, as long as you've got a clear head when you do the wiring, it's okay. You're just following the normal rules of electrical wiring. But so that is the consideration. And the other considerations, of course, the bulbs that I use, and that's always a vital part of the decision-making process with my lamps, is people don't they don't give enough thought to the color temperature of the lamps that they're using, because all lamps have got a color temperature. Now, the normal lamps that you have on in your house will have probably a color temperature of, I don't know, 4,000 to 5,000 kelvins. So you got a nice sort of glow, and that's good lighting. If you want to have a light that really stimulates you and helps you concentrate more towards sunlight, you have to go for a brighter, whiter light, which has got a higher color temperature. So lighting has a big effect on your health, both mental and physical health. And in fact, I'm going to be writing a little article about that soon, about lighting and mental health. But that's also an issue when I'm thinking my lamps. I try and find out from the customer, is this lamp going to be a bedroom lamp? Is it going to go on the side of your bed? You don't want a bright 6,000 Kelvin. Or is it going to be in your office where maybe you do want a brighter light because you want to concentrate when you're working at your computer? So that's a thought as well. So there's all these little, and of course within those lighting options, there are different sizes of bulbs, different shapes of bulbs. So it's trying to match them all in so that the end result is a lamp that gives the customer what they need in the form of form and function, but also goes a little bit further in giving them the lighting that's going to make them feel good, them feel better in the environment in which they're going to have it.
That sounds absolutely fab. So you're actually creating a lamp and the light source for a particular, whether it's stimulating or relaxing, depending on which room and how they want to use that lamp. That is amazing. Now, what is your favourite artwork by another artist?
Oh, I thought long and hard about this, and this is going to sound almost like a bit of a cop-out. I mean, I love all sorts of art, and since I got involved with the Bloomz, my appreciation of art in all its different forms has grown immensely. To include abstract art, to include watercolors and sculptural art, but I'm going to choose a piece that actually my partner Steph did, because whenever anybody asks me, what do you and Steph do, I show them my lamps. But there's always one piece that I show on my phone that Steph has done. And it's a piece, it's a Jack Russell dog that she did called Milo. Now, Steph is a fiber sculptor. So what she makes is 3D creations of animals, sometimes people's heads, and often people's pets. Maybe the pet has passed away and they'll send her photographs, maybe a video clip, and she will reproduce out of wool and other fibers that animal in a position that the customer, and she produced this piece, Milo the Jack Russell. And it was one of those times when you see it and it took my breath away because it just was incredible. And the customer, when her client saw it at the show that we took it to, and he wasn't even finished, the customer burst into tears because it was so lifelike. And that remains the favorite piece of art that I've seen anybody ever do, because of what it meant to the customer and the reaction that I got when I saw it. And I still get that reaction now when I see it, when I look at it on my phone. I have to convince myself it's not the real dog. So, that's my favorite piece of art. So,
oh, wonderful.
Go on to Stephanie Lester Artist's website or Instagram or Facebook and find this Jack Russell, this brown and white Jack Russell, and you'll be amazed that it isn't the real dog.
You'll be amazed. Well, when this eventually goes on Facebook, because apparently I've been getting messages, Steve, but I'm not going to interrupt the recording. I'll just post later and explain, technology and me not quite understanding how to do it.
Get there eventually.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually. So once it goes in, if you could pop in Stephanie's link as well, so that people can see Jack Russell. And you've explained why. Now, what feelings arise when you are creating?
When I'm creating, it's always going to be in my workshop. And I'm changing my workshop now because I'm moving. So there'll be a new workshop, which is such an exciting prospect. But I could be working in a small area, or it doesn't really matter. The fact that I'm in there, the fact that I'm creating, I suppose the first feeling I get when I go into the workshop is a sense of belonging. This is where I belong. This is what I should be doing. And I've done other jobs over the years and always enjoyed what I did. Enjoyed horticulture for 45 years. I was in horticulture. But it's funny because whenever I go in the workshop now to start creating a piece, the first feeling I get is that feeling of belonging. This is where I belong. And I think the joy then starts because you've got that feeling, you're in the right place. And because I've got another business as well, which is a small publishing business, which is very much computer-based, to be able to use the other side of the brain and do something creative